The attitude of acceptance is fundamentally about seeing things as they actually are. And it's about the willingness to come to terms with reality in each moment. But this is not easy to do because we have all these opinions and preferences, judgments about how we want things to be or how we think that things should be. And so we often find ourselves unable to be okay with whatever is. We put conditions on our own happiness, our own contentment, that we postpone it into the future, that we set up conditions for whenever things change, then I can accept it, or whenever I achieve this, then I can be happy. So acceptance is an attitude that really can help us come back to the present moment and find contentment without conditions. So this can really bring about a sense of freedom in our lives and also open up the door to positive change. But as I said, it's not easy to do, and in my experience there are two main problems, two misunderstandings that get in the way of embodying acceptance. And so the first one has to do with confusing accepting with agreeing, of thinking that acceptance somehow means that we need to pretend like we like what's happening or that we're consenting with whatever's happening. And that's not necessarily the case. Let's take an example. If you're planning a nice picnic outside with your friends and unexpectedly it starts raining, it starts pouring down, it's not that you have to pretend like you like the fact that it's now raining. But it does mean that you have to come to terms with that is now the reality. I mean, there's no use getting into a conflict about the fact that it's raining. It's already raining. There's no point in adding resistance to that. And by going into conflict, we go into a conflict with reality, and it doesn't serve us. So we don't have to like what's happening. And sometimes we feel that unless we resist things, we're unable to change them. They will just remain the same. And so that leads into the second misunderstanding. And this has to do with the misunderstanding that acceptance is somehow related to passivity. That, we look around in the world and we see injustice, we see conflicts, we see things that need to be changed. And we see perhaps situations in our own life that we need to deal with. And we believe that we cannot accept them because we need to fight them. We need to resist them and do something about them. And so we might think that acceptance is somehow passive. It's about resigning and giving up. It's like throwing our hands up and saying that, okay, I accept it, I give up, I don't care, or any behavior is okay with me. This type of resignation, of giving up, of not being able to take any action in the world. And so this is not what acceptance is about. It's truly about this recognition that unless we can accept reality as it is, we will get into conflict with things that we cannot change, and this will deplete our energy that could have been used for making creative change. It's like Steve Maraboli says, acceptance makes an incredible fertile soil for the seeds of change. And people who embody this attitude are often really effective in bringing about positive change, simply because they don't get stuck in conflict or resistance or complaining, but they can actually work with the circumstances as they are, and they act from a place of acceptance. And when we're trying to change things from a place of resistance, we often end up just bringing more conflict into that space. It's like our actions end up being misdirected or ineffective. It's almost like we bring the conflict into the very domain in which we're trying to create harmony and peace. And sadly, we can see this playing out in various forms of activism, where there is a noble and pure cause. There is a recognition that something needs to be changed and we need to do something about it, but that the actions end up coming from a place of non-acceptance and even perhaps hatred or aggression, or this sense of revenge. And so it's either becomes ineffective, or even worse, it brings conflict. It just adds fuel to the flame. So in the cultivation of acceptance, we come back to ourselves. We start working with ourselves. And it's not always easy to do, but as Jon Kabat-Zinn says, that in order to start working with difficulties, we often need to roll out the welcome mat. And when we do, we start seeing that even the most difficult and destructive emotions are workable, whether it's anxiety, depression, or chronic pain even, that this attitude of acceptance can really be a gateway to freedom. And I want to point out that there are a lot of similarities and parallels here with more modern and Western therapies, such as aspects of cognitive behavioral therapy, ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, DBT, that coined the term radical acceptance in working with obsessive compulsive disorders, for example. This tendency that we have, that we all have to different degrees, of obsessing over difficulties and strong emotions and start interpreting them, start thinking why they're happening, what's wrong with us, and jumping into compulsive action to try to fix them. And so I can't speak for these therapies, but from a frame of mindfulness, what we're cultivating here is this sense of allowing our sensations, our emotions, feelings, and thoughts to be there. So we have a clear recognition that this is what's present right now. And we can ask ourselves, can I allow this to be just for a moment? And we're learning to make space, make room for these experiences to be there. Because what often happens when we're not able to be with these emotions, when we shut them down, or when as soon as we feel them, we might distract ourselves or suppress them, we often give them more power. It's almost like we're sending a signal to our system, to our body, saying that we're not ready to handle these emotions yet. Please hold on to them until I'm ready. And we suppress them down into our bodies where they continue to live. This is a gradual process, and that's why this is an attitude. It's an open-ended process of allowing our sensations, our emotions, feelings, and thoughts to be there, to learn to make room for them. Because as we do, we start seeing that they are workable, that we can be with them, that they are transitory, they come and they go, they're not permanent, and we start getting the sense that we can actually allow them in and see how they come and then let them pass through, and in that sense kind of liberate ourselves from the prison, the grip that they've been having on us. And this can be really liberating, and it can be empowering, and it can open up the door for positive change in our lives.